For decades, the marketing establishment has treated luxury brands as an isolated ecosystem, exempt from the traditional economic forces that govern normal consumer goods. Theorists demand that luxury directors follow a strict set of rules. First, restrict distribution, manufacture artificial scarcity, and above all, avoid mass popularity. But empirical data from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute tells a completely different story. It proves that luxury brands actually rely on the exact same mass-market algorithms as everyday household goods. This raises a critical question for the industry. If the data contradicts the theory, is this obsession with exclusivity marketing suppressing global brand growth? To find out, we need to analyze the empirical data across luxury fashion, champagne, and watches to test a deeply held assumption, the idea that familiarity breeds contempt. What we will see is that clinging to qualitative myths over quantitative data represents a mathematical vulnerability for modern luxury strategists. We have to look at the fundamental demographic math that actually powers global luxury revenue and ensures a brand's long-term survival. The standard assumption across the industry is that a tiny elite cadre of billionaires sustains the entire luxury market ecosystem. This is a population distribution graph. It shows the actual economic driver of the category, the sheer numerical scale and purchasing power of the global middle class. The cumulative volume of infrequent middle-class purchases mathematically overpowers the high-frequency purchasing of the super-rich. The ratio is stark. While billionaires do buy more items per capita, there are millions of middle-class consumers for every single billionaire on the planet. This introduces the core concept of the light buyer. In statistical terms, the light buyer is the true hidden engine of brand scale and market dominance. Heavy buyers of a category, people who purchase frequently, usually spread their purchases across multiple competing brands. This behavior dilutes their individual value to any single company. Because of this, new brand growth mathematically necessitates reaching outward. You have to attract those who rarely purchase in the category at all. These light buyers pool their resources over long periods, sometimes years, to acquire specific, culturally recognized status symbols. Because luxury survival relies on these massive pools of infrequent buyers, it operates, by definition, as a mass-market business. This scale exposes a psychological myth, the idea that popularity inherently destroys a premium brand's desirability and unique cachet. This belief largely stems from a notorious 1995 study by Dubois and Paternal, which originally popularized the familiarity breeds contempt hypothesis in business schools worldwide. However, that 1995 study contained a fatal methodological flaw. It improperly mixed ubiquitous cosmetics with highly expensive haute couture, guaranteeing the expected results. Theorists used Pierre Cardin as a historical poster child for what not to do. He was heavily criticized for extending his brand into mass availability. But look at the corrected like-for-like empirical data. This scatter plot directly compares major luxury fashion and watch brands against each other within their own specific price tiers. When we draw the trend line, we see a massive 85% correlation. High awareness directly dictates high desirability. Take Rolex, for example. It sits at 85% awareness and 47% desirability, cementing the correlation between being widely known and widely wanted. This chart measures the specific behavioral relationship between current ownership and future desire, shifting the analysis away from general brand awareness. The data here is counterintuitive to the established theory. It shows that current owners consistently desire the brand significantly more than non-owners do. Looking specifically at Prada, we see owner desirability at 43% versus only 29% for aware non-owners. This aligns with human behavioral psychology. Buyers default to natural loyalty and repertoire buying, rather than actively rejecting items simply because they are familiar. Penetrating the market and increasing widespread ownership does absolutely nothing to depress future consumer demand. The idea that familiarity breeds contempt is an illusion. In reality, broad familiarity is the strict prerequisite for cachet. That brings us to another operational fallacy, the idea that a brand must restrict its physical availability to maintain an aura of exclusivity. The industry fears that being easy to buy automatically cheapens a premium product's perceived value in the market. This chart graphs consumer survey data. It measures a brand's luxury with luxury score against perceptions of its restricted retail distribution, labeled here as not available everywhere. What it reveals is a stark inverse relationship. The brands perceived as the most luxurious actually score the lowest on restricted availability. Restricting distribution does not signal exclusivity to consumers. It merely creates an unnecessary barrier to purchase. Hiding the product doesn't increase desire at all. Instead, it forces frustrated consumers to buy from an accessible competitor. The true empirical drivers of exclusivity are not hidden storefronts. They are prohibitive price points and a decades-long reputation for extreme quality. Artificial scarcity is a defensive tactic for weak brands. True exclusivity scales purely through uncompromising product quality. Now we can look at how these luxury giants actually compete against one another in the open market. The duplication of purchase law is an abstract mathematical constant. It dictates how all brands share their customer bases. This matrix shows that every luxury brand shares its customers precisely in proportion to the overall size of its competitors. Notice how nearly half of all niche luxury brand customers also actively purchase from massive market leaders like Prada. If we shift our focus to the demographic profiles of these shared customers, we see overlapping silhouettes with only a 2 to 5% demographic deviation between them. This debunks the myth of hyper-targeted, highly differentiated luxury niches. The data shows that buyers of ostensibly distinct rival brands like Gucci and Versace are statistically indistinguishable from one another. Luxury brands do not grow by finding unique niches. They are locked in a mass-market battle for the exact same pool of homogeneous buyers. To grow, luxury brand directors must completely abandon the fear of mass popularity and widespread visibility. The first empirical mandate is to maximize mental availability. This requires utilizing broad-reach mass advertising to build widespread fame among non-buyers. The second empirical mandate is to maximize physical availability. The product must be effortless to find and purchase across multiple channels. And the third empirical mandate is to defend the brand's exclusivity purely through unyielding price integrity and extreme product craftsmanship. Obscurity is a fatal liability in a highly competitive landscape, governed entirely by the mathematics of brand scale. True luxury growth relies on radical visibility. Ultimately, the greatest status symbol a brand can achieve is absolute global omnipresence.